And all the tribes of Israel went to David in Hebron, saying, Behold, we are your bone and your flesh. Moreover, yesterday and the day before, when Saul was king over us, you were the one leading out and leading back Israel. Then the Lord said to you, You shall pasture my people Israel, and you shall be the leader over Israel. Also, the elders of Israel went to the king at Hebron, and King David struck a pact with them at Hebron in the sight of the Lord. And they anointed David as king over Israel. David was a son of 30 years, when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 40 years. In Hebron, he reigned over Judah for 7 years and 6 months. Then in Jerusalem, he reigned for 33 years over all of Israel and Judah. And the king, and all the men who were with him, went away to Jerusalem, to the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land. And it was said to David by them, You shall not enter here, unless you will take away the blind and the lame, who say, David shall not enter here. But David seized the stronghold of Zion, the same is the city of David. For David had proposed, on that day, a reward to him who had struck the Jebusites, and who had reached to the gutters of the rooftops, and who had taken away the blind and the lame that hated the soul of David. Therefore, it is said in the proverb, The blind and the lame shall not enter into the temple. Then David lived in the stronghold, and he called it, the city of David. And he built it up on all sides, from Millo and inward. And he advanced, prospering and increasing, and the Lord, the God of hosts, was with him. Also Hiram, the king of Tyre, sent messengers to David, with cedar wood, and with builders of wood and builders of stone, in order to make walls. And they built a house for David. And David knew that the Lord had confirmed him as king over Israel, and that he had exalted his kingdom over his people Israel. Then David took more concubines and wives from Jerusalem, after he had arrived from Hebron. And other sons as well as daughters were born to David. And these are the names of those who were born to him in Jerusalem: Shammua, and Shobab, and Nathan, and Solomon, and Abhar, and Elishua, and Nepheg, and Japhia, and Elishama, and Eliada, and Elipheleth. Then the Philistines heard that they had anointed David as king over Israel. And they all ascended, so that they might seek David. And when David had heard of it, he descended to a stronghold. Now the Philistines, arriving, spread themselves out in the valley of Rephaim. And David consulted the Lord, saying, Shall I ascend to the Philistines? And will you give them into my hand? And the Lord said to David, Ascend. For I will certainly give the Philistines into your hand. Therefore David went to Baal-perazim. And he struck them there. And he said, The Lord has divided my enemies before me, just as the waters are divided. Because of this, the name of that place was called Baal-perazim. And in that place they left behind their graven images, which David and his men took away. And the Philistines continued still, so that they ascended and spread themselves out in the valley of Rephaim. Then David consulted the Lord. Shall I ascend against the Philistines, and will you deliver them into my hands? And he responded, You shall not ascend against them, instead, circle behind their back. And you shall come to them from the side opposite the balsam trees. And when you hear the sound of something going forth from the tops of the balsam trees, then you shall begin the battle. For then the Lord will go forth, before your face, so that he may strike the army of the Philistines. And so David did just as the Lord had instructed him. And he struck down the Philistines, from Gibeon until you arrive at Gezer.